All right, there you go.
All right, guys, welcome to the drafting training on Revit view templates. Everybody can see my screen, right? Yep. All right. So today we're going to be talking about view templates. Maybe show of hands, maybe on if your camera's on, or if you can use the participants. How many people have never used the view template? Know what a view template is? One or two? Okay. Yep. So we're going to go over what that is so you guys can know exactly what everything covers in a view template. It can be a little confusing at first, but I'll go ahead and start. So for those of you who don't know, what is a view template? A view template in Revit is a collection of view properties such as view scale, discipline, detail level, just visibility settings. We use the view templates to apply standard settings to views. This helps us with making sure that we're adhering to all the office standards. We set all these to make sure all of our documents are have consistency within them. Certain things are turned on and off, and they're all the same with across all the PDF sets. One good thing about it is if you assign a view template to a view, it creates kind of a link to that view. So if you kind of adjust the view template later on, some of the settings, it's going to automatically apply to all the views that are assigned to that template. So it's kind of one of the benefits of it. You don't have to adjust every single kind of visibility setting for every single view. If they're all set, they all get updated automatically. Make sense? Yep. All right. So we're going to go into how do we access view templates. So there's two ways, and I'll go open Revit right now to show you how we do it. But there's two ways. So once you open a Revit model, you can either go to the properties, and there's the view templates in this identity data section. Typically, you have a WW in front of our view templates, WW floor plan or elevation. Or you can go to the ribbon, and you go to view, and then you can go to view templates. So I'm going to show you that right now. So I opened up a project. This is 233 East Grand that we worked on the sales model for. And like I mentioned, if to go to the view templates, you would go to your ribbon, and under view on the far left, there's these view templates. And it's a little drop-down menu. There's a couple options here: apply, create, and manage. That's the one that actually opens up all the templates. So if you go to manage view templates, you can see that it opens it up here. That's one way. The other way is if you're already in a view, you can go down here like I mentioned before. It's under identity data, and just click on this view template here. So that's another way, but little difference you can see when I clicked on it here versus the manage, you don't see as many options. Because I'm in a specific view already, for example, this is a floor plan, it's only going to show me the view templates related to the floor plan. So that's by clicking on the view template within this view, because it knows it's a floor plan up here. If I go back to my view and then view templates and manage, see all of them come up. You can use the filters up here, which I'll go over in the next slide. But that's how you access the view templates. All right. A little bit of overview. So like I mentioned, there's some filters here. So because, a lot of architects and structural engineers, they might be collaborating, you can put some disciplines on the filters, whether it's architectural, structural, mechanical, whether it's a view template for coordination. You can create, apply a filter for that so you can filter through it. You can also do a view type filter. So again, like I mentioned, if it applies to floor plans, elevations, sections, details, that you can toggle here. And this area is where all the views are. So like I mentioned, most of them have WW in front of them. These are all the WW standard view templates. You have details at different scales, elevations, full building elevations, floor plans, segmented walls. I mean, these are all the typical ones we've created in the project template for you to use in your projects. Down here, there's options to duplicate. This is the duplicate a view template. Say you wanted to make another one for whatever reason, you can duplicate it based on the one you selected. This one is a rename if you needed to rename it for whatever reason, or down here is the delete if you don't want one anymore. Going over to the top right, up here, it tells you the number of views using this template. So I have, in this example, there's 5 views that are using this BIM 360 template. It kind of lets you know, for whatever reason you're trying to delete one, you can say, oh, there's actually 5 of them using it, so I don't really want to delete it. And then this is kind of where you kind of control everything. You have your parameters, depending on which type of view template you're using, whether it's 3D or elevation or floor plan. You might see more options here. But these are all the parameters you can control. And then these are the values. So this is kind of where you can kind of change the values, which I'll go over once I get back into Revit. And the big thing to note here is the include column. So this include column is used to indicate whether you want to include that specific parameter in your view template or not. So if it's checked, it's going to include that in the view template. If it's not checked, it's not going to include it. And I'll show you how it works. Any questions on this interface before we move to Revit? No, doesn't look like it. All right. All right. So again, back here, just so it makes sense, when I'm in a view, I have all these properties in my properties browser, right? Properties palette. If I don't have a view template assigned, I can change it to none. You can see that all of these properties open up. Before, when I assigned a template, they kind of gray out. So if I change it back to my floor plan 16, you can see now these are all grayed out. That's because they're controlled within the view template. Make sense? So I don't have the ability to change this on the fly because it's all, most of these are controlled within the view template. Same thing down here. So these are also properties that I can change within the view, but because I have my view template assigned and it includes the scale and the detail level and the visual styles, you can't actually change it here. I get a lot of questions like, how come I can't change this? That's because it's controlled within the view template here. All right. So like I mentioned, the view scale, that's the first one. So if you wanted to change the view scale for whatever reason, the way we set it up is we have each template based on the scale. So this would always be a 16th. But if you wanted to change it and make a new one, you can click on the drop down and change it to whatever scale you want it to. Scale value, you can't change. That depends on which scale you choose. So you can see it changed to 128 over 192. So that's just something Revit's going to put in there. The display model, this one here is based on what you want your model to look like. So let me move this over to the side a little bit. And display model will allow you to change your model to halftone. So say you wanted to make it all halftone for whatever reason. You hit apply, and that's going to make everything halftone. So using the apply will actually use whatever values you have set in your view template and apply directly to the view without having to close this. So that's why it's good to just hit apply and kind of check it out. If I hit do not display for whatever reason, you don't want that, it turns all of your model stuff off. Don't know why you don't want that, but it's an option. You can hit apply and bring everything back. And then, like I said, the detail level, it's included. So it's going to be controlled within the template. So right now you can have it's set to coarse. You can change it to medium or fine if you'd like. One thing that, like I mentioned in previous training was, with steel, it's just as aligned with coarse detail level. It shows the rest of it in fine. So you just want to make sure you know what you actually want to see. So that'll be, typically it's coarse. The part visibility, this one's a little more complicated. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one, but we just typically set it to show original. That's kind of a little for another training session. But the main ones that we look for when we play with the view template is the visual graphic overrides. So that's what this V/G stands for. So VG overrides, which stands for visibility graphics overrides. You can override stuff in your model, stuff in the annotations, if there's any analytical model stuff, imports, filters, work sets, and links. So all of these that say VG overrides, if you hit edit on any one of these, it's going to open up your visibility graphics overrides. So you can see at the top, there's all these tabs. They correspond to the same options here. You can see model, annotation, analytical, imported, filter, work sets, and links. So no matter which one you select, it's always going to open it, but it's going to open it to that tab. Make sense? So this allows you to turn things on and off. So say, for example, you didn't want to see any of the curtain wall or mullions. You turn it off. Hit the check mark, hit apply, it'll turn off. So for whatever reason, if you want to turn off furniture or floors or whatever you have in your model, this is specific to your project model, you can turn it off here, and it will be turned off in all the view templates, or all the views that have this view template. So we set kind of everything to be turned on in our models. So there's not too many things that are unchecked. Just the parts, like I mentioned, a little more complicated. Topography, but everything else is pretty much turned on. So if you needed to turn something off, you would just click it here. You also have the options to override specific things. So for example, curtain wall mullions, you can override the lines. So for whatever reason, if you don't want it to be the regular, line that you wanted, you have the option to do that here. I would not really advise that, but it's just Revit has that option. The same thing with the patterns and transparency. You can make things, like the floor more transparent so you can see through the floor. Just a lot of options you can change here.
Is this the template that you're looking at here, or is this before you make a template?
No, this is actually like a template that's already in.
Okay, that's that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's a good question. So like when you create a new project, it opens up the Walt project template, right? And in that project template, you're gonna have preset view templates.
Okay.
That will automatically be populated. Like,
so
for example,
we're looking at the properties of that template.
Exactly that floor plan 16. Good question. So, like I said, you can you can turn things on and off in the model. You can turn off specific annotations that are pertaining to the model. So, for example, say I don't want any of my grids. Just as an example, I can go down, uncheck the grids, hit apply, and you can see they turn off. So this pertains to all like the tags. You can see it has levels. Anything that you would think you can use to annotate, sections. All these section callouts, I can turn them off. So depends on what you select. You can turn it on and off. You can also make them halftone. So if you want it to be halftone or change the lines again, you have that option.
So if this is a standard template for floor plans, and if you change things here, does it change for the whole project or just for that sheet you're on?
Yes, good question. So it depends if they're using the template. So for example, this is level 1, right? This is using WW Floor Plan 16. Level 2, right? If I click on level 2, you can see it's also using WW Floor Plan 16. So let me show you an example. So say I accidentally, or I change this to none. So it's not using the floor plan template anymore. So if I were to go back to level 1 and I were to change the annotations to where I turn off the grids, make it obvious, right? I turn off the grids, hit apply, hit OK again. All the grids are turned off here. I go to level 2, the grids are still turned on because they're not using that template. I go to level 3, they're turned off because they're using that template. So it's like the more views that are using the template, the more you're going to have control over the whole project, and it'll take into effect of what you're doing, because this one's no longer using a template. It's not going to be turned off. And an easy way to do multiple, like say I wanted all these to be the same template, you can just click on one, hold shift, and you can see it selects all of them, and then you can just edit this and then make it to the 16th, and they all become the 16th. All right, good question, Daryl. Going to the VG overrides, we don't mess with analytical models too much, so I won't talk about that one. We don't use that too often. Imported categories. This is like if you import a DWG file or some other kind of file, it'll show up here. You have the ability to turn those on and off independently. Filters. So if there's specific filters, for whatever reason, they'll show up here, and you can turn them on and off here as well. Work sets. If you use specific work sets, you control the visibility, and then the links. This is kind of the biggest one, is the links. So right now I have the architectural model. Let me hit it. Oh, I have to turn the grids back on. So I have the architectural model overlaid on top of our model. You want to turn it off in that view in the template, you just uncheck it and it goes away. You can see all the background goes away. So you can control the link by just clicking the on and off button. If you wanted to control something within the architectural model in that view, you would have to hit this button here, which is the display settings. It's usually called custom. So the custom allows you to actually go like a level deeper into the architectural model and turn things on and off. So I'm actually in the RVT link display settings, and you can see that it still has this kind of the same options, mostly the same options here, and you can kind of customize what you want. So for example, I can turn, all of the, it's probably stairs or something. Let me see if that's stairs. I can go and turn off their stairs. Yeah, so the stair went away. So if you know specific objects in the architectural model that you don't want to have turned on so you don't print, you kind of, use that to go in and customize what it looks like on the floor plan or elevation or whatever it is, and turn those on and off. Does that make sense?
And Gabe, when you do that, it just affects that one view template.
It affects just the one view template, correct. So if you wanted to apply it to other view templates like elevations or sections, you'd have to go to those specific view templates and do the same thing. Correct, yep, good question. Again, you still have the option to change the lines, transparency. And a good thing that I like to do is make it halftone. I went back to the RVT links and I clicked this halftone, and then that kind of allows you to see what's the architectural model and what's our model. So if I hit OK, I'm just going to go back into the model. You can see that this halftone area is all the architecturals, and this little darker areas are our walls, our scopes. So you can see kind of that distinction between those two. It's always good, just in case, just to see what have you finished, what you still need to work on. So that's always good to do. So that's mainly the VG overrides. I mean, you can go ahead and play around with it. Again, you're not really hurting the architectural model. You're not doing anything. You're not deleting anything. I just want to make sure you're aware of that, because by this is just you're changing the way you're displaying it in your model. So if you want to turn things on and off, go for it. It's not deleting it in any way.
So when you change these things here, are you actually revising the template, or are you changing it just?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm changing the template that's covering the RBT links. So by default, if I go to the WW floor plan and I go to VG override links, if I make this a halftone, that's going to change the template, right? It's going to change the view template. If I do some custom things here, like turn off their doors or turn off their floors or whatever it is, and I hit apply and I hit OK, and then I hit OK again, I just modified that WW floor plan 16th template. So now any levels or any views that are using this, there's 11 of them, all have that same property. So all the architectural doors are turned off, all the architectural floors are turned off. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
All right. And again, just to reiterate, all this is working. All this is doing it because I have all these checked. They're all included. If for whatever reason I didn't check one of these and I made some edits in here, it's not going to take into effect because you didn't include it in the template. So to show you that, let me uncheck this. I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to turn off the grids again. Hit apply. Hit OK. You see nothing happens. Nothing happens because it's not included. Once it's included, hit apply, and they go away. So this is kind of the key here. All right. Let me turn that back on. Okay, any questions so far on just that area before I go down? Nope. All right. The next thing under the visual graphic overrides is the model display. So if you hit edit, this is controlling how your model is basically displaying, right? The style of it. Do you want it wireframe, hidden lines, shaded, consistent colors, realistic? These are all the same as the one down here. So let me show you what that is. Down here, you still have these options: wireframe, hidden line, shaded, consistent color, realistic. So those are the same as the model display. So you can control that within the template. You can also make the whole thing transparent. So if you wanted to make it all transparent, you can just set this transparent value. Again, I wouldn't advise that. Just leave it at 0, but you could. You can add silhouettes for whatever reason. Again, specific lines you want to use. All of this you can just play around and see how it affects the model. But by default, we have all this off. And again, to reiterate, like the VG overrides, they're all in the same dialog box. So are these. The model display, I clicked on edit, and it popped up this box. So I have model display here. Shadows, it's the same as this one. Sketchy lines. Lighting. Lighting's right here. photographic exposure is here. So all these are going to open the same dialog box. So for whatever reason, if I go to shadows, it just goes to that section. Again, you can play around with these if you want to, change them in the view templates to try it out. You can cast shadows, show ambient shadows. I mean, it just changes the view of say, like the 3D view. You can also cast shadows and see what that looks like. There you go. So there's your shadows. You can do sketchy lines. So with sketchy lines, let me go to that one. With sketchy lines, it looks like basically someone's hand drawing this. So say this is a preliminary, sketch or layout or something. You can hit this enable sketchy lines. You can add a jitter, like how long you're going over the same line kind of thing. And then you apply that. And let's see what it looks like. You kind of see that there's multiple lines going over one another. It's kind of like someone's hand drawing it a little bit. Looks a little weird. But you have that option for whatever reason. That was probably an architect request that they put in there for Revit, so we don't use that one too often. Just make that 0. All right, the next one is lighting. I don't see this option here. Depth. Yeah, they don't have this one here. But depth queuing, let me go to, probably need to be in an elevation. Okay, so that brings up another thing. You can see that I switched to an elevation, so it's using a WW elevation quarter view template. So based on the view, it's a different template. There you go. So depth queuing basically allows you to kind of highlight how far something is in the view. So let me actually go to overall. This is a good one. So here we have this wall, which is a little further back than say this wall here. So with depth queuing, you can change it to where you can show the depth. So let me just leave it like how it is, but I'll show you what happens. You can see that this kind of goes a little halftone. You can see that's a little further back than this wall here, which is a little darker. So that's just an option they have. Again, you guys feel free to play with all of this in your projects or in a little test project. Lighting, you can turn on the sun, change where the sun is, do shadows, do all that. Exposure, same thing. I'm not going to get into that, but and you can add a background. So depending on what you want, you can do a lot of things. You can add like a little sky and a little ground. You've probably seen this in one of the architectural models or PDFs. So again, just a bunch of options we have, but we just set them to be turned off. All right. All right, I'm gonna finish off with the rest of these. Far clipping. Far clipping is basically if you're looking at an elevation, how far do you want to look? If there's no clip, that's going to look all the way past the model or past kind of the whole building. So it's going to show you everything. You can use clip without a line. So you can go to a certain point, chop it off, and that's all you're going to see. And then clip with a line. It's kind of the same thing, but you're just kind of seeing kind of the ends of it as is in this example. So for full building elevations, we use no clips. We can see the whole building. For regular elevations, we use the clip without a line. That way you don't see everything in the background. So say there's another wall behind this wall or something further back, you don't actually see the whole building. So we use a clip without line. Okay. And back to my floor plan. finish this off. Oh, you can see there's different options here now that we're in my floor plan. I have this view range. So with the floor plans, you actually have the ability to change where you're cutting. So you can hit this little show option, and you can see, you know, you're cutting at this plane, which is your cut plane. So right now it's set to 4 feet above the floor level. So that's this line. You have your top, which is this one up here. You have your bottom, which is right here on the 3. And then you have your view depth. So if you want to look a little further down, you can. Typically they're set to 0, 0, so that you don't look down below the floor. But yeah, this is kind of, you can change your view range for all your views if you needed to. Okay. You can change the project north if you're using project north or true north. Filters. I mean, you might have opened up an architectural model and they had phase filters. So they could have showed like all the demo walls, you know, things are going to demo, all the completed walls, all the new construction. I'm not going to get too deep into that one, but it's probably another class you can probably have is about phases. Again, we don't use them too much, but we just use the show all phase. Discipline. Oh,
Sorry,
question.
I just want to point out, depending on the project, you really do need to pay attention to the phases. Not in our own model, but if we're looking at the architect's model.
Yes, that's a good point. There are cases where if you open up a model, you probably won't see things. It's probably because either the phase or some filters they have. But if you switch between phases, you can probably see things turn on and off. So that's a good point to make sure that if there's something you're not seeing, you can probably check the phases.
Hey, Gabriel, I have
Yes.
a question about this one because Jessica actually, we used to be sitting in the same room, so she teach me a lot about this one, how to use this area to setting by what you want to see. This is really customize everything and make your job much easier. But I'm not sure, we do have a couple people setting up job before project engineer really get into that one, correct?
Yeah, we set it up in the sales stage.
Well, not only sales stage. I mean, does Amber doing this?
No, Amber doesn't do that. No, she doesn't do
Who's
this.
setting this one?
What was that?
I mean, who's setting this one before our project engineer get into the operation model? I mean, this will be good, you know, like I'm not saying Jessica has to do this one, for example. We should have people have the ability really, because this need a time to dig into that one. Sometimes you have to open the customer model layer to, all this names is meaningful. You have to know what you're looking to turn that off and on.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's all different sometimes. Like the architects draw them all differently. So sometimes they're all on, sometimes they have phases, sometimes you just kind of have to analyze it a little bit to figure out how they drew it, if there's anything you need to adjust so that you can view what you want to view and you know, see if there's any issues.
I would say, you know, for this one, you have a very good point. When we have earlier stage people, when we're doing this one, usually I like to talk to their architect from detailer or drafter. I try and understand their logical, how they do this. I think it's very helpful for us later on how we set up this.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you understand this and then you kind of use the knowledge to open up architectural models, and you can kind of figure out and play around with their settings to understand how you want it to look. So it'll be good for setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. All right. Okay, so just to continue on here, The discipline is currently set to architectural. You can set them to kind of other disciplines, but this kind of just affects, you know, how it gets filtered. Like I mentioned before, you can change it to architectural. If I change it to architectural, you can see that our structural, you see they go away. So depending on the filter you have here, it's gonna be able to display the filter there. All right. So that's the filter. Show hidden lines. Again, we just leave it by discipline. Color scheme. I mean, you can change the color. Background, foreground. Again, we don't really mess with it. That's the way Revit initially set it up, so we haven't really touched it since. You can do a color scheme. I believe this is what Zach uses for the takeoff browser, color scheme one. You can edit different color. Yeah, I don't mess with this too much, so I just leave it as is. And then this is the depth queuing, which we talked about. That's depth clipping, sorry. And then the last ones are architectural reference, elevations required, and view title text. These are the custom ones we added for the views for the sheets. So once you put a view on a sheet, you have the ability to put the architectural reference, elevations required, and view title text if needed. So those are populated in the view template. They're not included because all the views could have different architectural reference and different elevation required. So that's why they are not included in this one. Okay. All right, makes sense. Good to go. And like I went over before, there's different ways of assigning them. So you can select the views, and then you can hit the edit and select the view template, which I went over. There's also a way when you actually create a view using either the elevation, the section, or the detail that has it by default. So in the standard template that we created and put on the server, we made custom elevations, custom sections, custom details, and by default, it's going to use those templates. And I'll show you what that looks like. So if I create an elevation here, just a new one, I go to elevation, and you can see that I'm using the WW elevation quarter. And before I put it where I want it to go, I can hit edit type. And you can see that there's some properties with this type. And one of the properties is the view template applied to new views. So every time I place this call out, it's going to automatically put it in the WW elevations quarter view template. So you don't have to go in and assign it later on because this is a part of the type properties. I can just click on it. And once I make this view, you can see that it's going to come into the WW quarter. And you can see that, oops, it's very large, but you can see that it uses the WW elevation quarter by default. Typically, Revit doesn't assign those to a view template. That's something we set up in that template to make it easier for everyone to utilize the template so that the views are always the same. Okay, and like I mentioned before, if you wanted to go ahead and change these, you can just select multiple and change them here. All right. One thing I also want to mention is temporary view properties. So what that is, it allows you to temporarily adjust the view properties of the view you're on without adjusting the view template. So say, for example, you wanted to change, you know, the visual styles or the scale for whatever reason, but just temporarily, you have that option. So if you look at the bottom of your screen under this view control bar, you have this option here. It's like, I don't even know, it looks like a microchip or something. I don't even know. It's like a view with another view on it or something. But if you click that, it enables some temporary properties. And I'll show you what that looks like. So before I mentioned, all of these are disabled because everything's controlled within the view template, right? They're all grayed out. I can't click on them. Let's say I wanted to change this to shaded for whatever reason. You would have to go to the view template, come to model display, change it to shaded, hit apply again, or hit OK, hit apply. It just takes forever, right? It just takes a while to get to that. The temporary view properties allows you to do that on the fly. So let me change this back. Okay, so the temporary view properties is down here, and it allows you to enable temporary view properties. So if I click that, I see this border around the screen, and now everything opens up. So all of these are ungrayed. All of these are ungrayed. I can change, say I wanted to change the shaded, it goes to shaded. I can change the scale, all of these get bigger. It allows you to do things on the fly without affecting the view template. You can see it's grayed out. But I just say you wanted to do it real quick to see what it looks like. For whatever reason, you can do that. And if I restore the view properties, everything goes back to normal, like you didn't even do anything. So it just kind of gives you that quick kind of, hey, I want to, look at this in coarse view versus fine view, or I want to, do whatever that you don't really want to go to the view properties and adjust all this for every single view, because it's going to adjust every single view. Just want to look at it here real quick. You have that option with the view properties. You also have the ability to apply templates to this view. So in that same option, you can say, I want to temporarily apply a template to this view. So say you're like, I want to see how it looks at 3/32 scale. Maybe it fits better on the page, right? I can click on, let me do that again. I can go to the view template, temporary view properties, temporary apply template properties. Click on my floor plan 3/32, hit OK. Again, it comes with the temporary view properties. I can see what it looks like. I can put it on a page, see if it fits better. And I can say, nah, I liked it the other way. So I can just say, restore. And everything goes back to normal. So just a quick little thing that I use quite often, just so I don't mess with the view template.
Yeah, we use that for the unit keys.
Mm-hmm.
It uses the same. You can tell by the purple border that you're in that temporary view.
Yep. Exactly. I think Zach programmed it to where he has some buttons. Is it unit keys or palette keys or one of these?
Both of them.
Both of them? Yeah, he programmed it to set it to this view temporary view properties. You guys apply kind of, I'm not actually sure what you get, maybe the unit keys or something, you can see them and prints it out, and then it turns it back off, right?
Yeah, because I think if you apply the temporary view, it applies it to all the elevations, but it doesn't lock people out.
Exactly. Yep.
Of those elevations.
That's a good point. So yeah, so if you weren't aware of that, you can use that here and just restore. Okay. What else do I got? I think that was it. That was the last one. Yep. Any questions? I know I went over a lot about the view template. I encourage you guys to open up a project or open up a test project, play around with them just to get familiar with them. Excuse me. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, down here, you can duplicate and create your own. And then you can kind of mess with these properties here if you're want to see what they do.
Gabe, I have a question.
Yep.
So we clean architectural model on view template. What is different between view template and Alan's tool architectural model cleaner and demo cleaner?
Yeah, so with that, those actually clean up like the whole project. So that's kind of a button that allows you to delete views, delete sheets, get rid of families that aren't being used, that can kind of make the model heavy. So that button is kind of separate. It might get rid of some view templates in their project, but not in our project. So they're kind of two different tools. Like that's kind of a separate tool actually.
Thank you.
But that brings up a good point. Say for example, you had a project where you started and, you know, say I made a new project. Oh man, this takes forever. So say I made a new project and, you know, like a month later we make a new view template, right? And I put it in the standard project template. You could either create your own in your project and try to match all the properties, which kind of could be hard because you don't really know everything that I've actually turned on, turned off. But there's also another way you could transfer the project standards. So if I go to new project, and let's go to architectural template. Whatever project you have. Say this one doesn't have any of my view templates. It doesn't have any Walters and Walt templates. You have the ability to transfer them. So if I go to manage, transfer project standards, I can click on my project. I can check none, and I can go down to view templates. I can say, I want all the view templates that are in this project into my project. And it's going to ask, you know, there's some things that are duplicate. The material, that's fine. You can override it, doesn't matter. But now what happens is it brought in all my view templates that were in the project. That way, you know, they're exactly the same. They are exactly how I set them up. And now you can see all of them are in here. So all these WW ones that I imported. So for whatever reason, if we make one down the road, you don't have it in your project, you can just transfer from a project that does have it, and you can use it in your project. Okay. Any other questions?
That was really good, Gabe. I learned a lot.
Yes, hopefully everybody learned a lot. There's a lot to it. It's a lot you can just play with and mess around with. It's fun, and you can kind of do anything. So hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys can use this in your project and make sure that we keep that standard of making sure all the shop drawings look good.
Yeah, that was really good. I didn't know about the temporary view properties, so I will definitely be using that.
Yes, that's very handy.
Thanks,
All
Gabe.
right. I think that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Gabe.
All right.
Fine. Thank
All right.
you.
Bye.